start the recording. And I'll just call the meeting to order and do the roll call. So it's 7 o'clock. And Dan Keller, are you here?
Here.
Laurie DiDonato, here, I'm here. Gillian Budine, are you here?
Only in spirit.
No, Gillian is absent. Okay, and then the next item is public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to make public comments?
Oh, excuse me, one question, Lori. Are you doing minutes?
I'm recording it. So I guess I was going to see if Glenn would do them, or maybe I can do them if they're quick. But I don't really like to take notes at the same time.
No, I know. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I think if you're here and you have a recording, you would be a good person to write up the minutes. And in all the stuff I've been reviewing about minutes, that they keep stressing abbreviated form. So I mean, the main thing is the votes.
Right. Okay.
And I think the rest of it is superfluous, really. Who's present and who votes, and if there's a altercation, pro and con, but we rarely have that.
All right. Yep. I can probably take a stab at that.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. And I don't see any public or hear public comment. So we'll move on and review the meeting and warrant schedule, which is on the agenda. They're all aligned for the next 2-week intervals for the next 3 meetings. So one thing I realized, we do have something else to sign tomorrow, which is on the agenda, the consent order amendment. So maybe I'll print that out and I'll try to come early tomorrow so that it'll be there when you come, because you like to go early, right?
Well, no, I mean, not too early. But I'm flexible, so just let me know what's good for you.
Okay. And of course, we're just going to assume it's there, right?
Yes.
Should be there.
It should be there. I'm confident it will be there.
I'd have to actually go really early because I have to be here at 8 if I'm stuck. I mean, do you want to print? Did you see the consent order amendment?
I did not see it, I don't think.
Okay. Because generally it's easier for me to go in the afternoon, like after 1, because I usually work in the morning. But if we want to sign this other form, then somebody needs to print it and bring it for sign.
Well, I can do that.
Okay.
But I don't think I have it. Can you?
Okay, I'll make sure I'll send it to you.
And this is regarding
Swift River.
Oh, right.
Water.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that in the morning.
Okay, great. So then I'll just come in the afternoon and I can sign everything.
Yeah, good.
All right. So then we have approval of minutes from June 29th. I took a look and they looked fine to me. Did you want to? I'll make a motion, make a motion to approve the minutes from June 29th.
I'll second it. They look good to me.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we're down to the Swift River Water Consent Order Amendment. So I did send an email that I forwarded Tim Newton's email. That they actually haven't done the camera work, which was supposed to happen at the end of June. But they're still, it's just that the person who's supposed to do it has been too busy. They're still working on getting that done. But they did put in for an extension for the deadline from DEP. And they just heard that they got their extension to September 30th for the requirement of having, you know, our plan submitted.
That's good.
So part of that is this consent order amendment, which needs to be signed by us and them. So I don't know, do we need to vote on signing it, or do we just sign
I
it
think it would be good.
to vote? Okay.
Yep, sure.
So I guess I can make a motion to sign the consent order amendment from the DEP, extending our deadline for submission of the Swift River Water plan, remediation plan.
I will second that motion.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
okay. All right. Next up, I put on the fire chief succession planning because I've started talking to consultants who might help us with this and realized that I don't know how we might pay for any consultant. I know we had high hopes of getting some kind of grant, but I'm not, but just talking to one person, MRI, which is Municipal Resources, Inc., didn't sound promising from them in terms of grants. So,
Well, I think it'd probably be a good idea to talk to the Collins Center.
yeah, so I'm not setting,
They were really instrumental in getting us the other grants.
I've already been in touch with them and we're trying to set up an appointment.
Great.
But, so, I mean, I guess I just wanted to check, is there possibility for anything coming out of our budget for this? Or is it gonna rely on getting a grant?
Well, Doug is here, so he can chime in, but I would say that there is money in the select board budget if we need it. There's something to get started anyway.
I was looking at something else and I wasn't actually listening.
Good for you.
Sorry. It wasn't my part of the thing.
Right
so
on.
What was it that you needed money for?
We're talking about the fire department succession planning,
Oh,
And if we,
hiring a consultant.
yeah,
I think we might be able to get some help from the Collins Center because they were really helpful getting a grant the other times.
right.
But I said to Lori that I thought that there is some money in the select board expense account that we could use to maybe get started if we need to.
I think that's true. There's money there. We're talking the 23 budget, right?
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
So, yeah, we should try to get a handle on how much it is, and we might want to do an appropriation from the stabilization fund at the next town meeting. But we could do something in an interim basis from a variety of accounts. Yeah.
so, and this might also be something where we'll partner with New Salem or Leverett or both, or who knows,
Yeah.
maybe Shutesbury even.
Shrewsbury. Yeah.
They said, MRI said they could start us out with just a $125 an hour charge for sort of just putting in time at our meetings and guiding us and maybe doing some data collection kind of thing, which would end up, what I'm looking at. It's sort of what he called let's see if I can find what I had written for this.
I think you could use ARPA funds for that too.
And let's see, a management letter would be the final, which could be it could culminate in this management letter, which was a 12 to 15 page report.
Yeah.
And he's just said, I asked, well, do you have a ballpark for if somebody went, through all of this and ended up with this management letter, how much it costs? And he said 12,000. Might have been something that happened in another town recently.
That's a
But
lot of
again,
money.
we can do it hour by hour, at the start.
And it's a lot of money for 12 pages, but
Right.
Yeah, I'm not
Um,
sure what the function of that would be, but
I mean, I think it's sort of an alternative to just doing a full-blown study. It's more of, and I think and again, you can do it as far as you want, I think. Take as many hours, just do it as an hourly thing. And So it wouldn't have to be committing to some big study. That was my impression. but
What's the committee's sense of how they want to proceed and at this point and what they're interested in knowing? I guess that's part of, I
I
mean,
think that everybody on the committee, plus we talked with Leverett and New Salem at the last meeting, likes the idea of bringing in a consultant.
mm, sure.
In terms, what the goals are, just making sure we have a plan in place. I think it's, well, other than broad strokes, I don't know if there's more to add to that.
Okay, well, that makes sense. That's where you are now. Well, like I said, I think it could be a use for ARPA funds, especially, especially for a startup. If you're looking for something that wouldn't be a drain on accounts that were intended for other purposes, that would be fine, probably. And then if we can get an actual figure for what our share might be after a consultant and a shared thing among other towns, like say we could then actually make an actual budget from stabilization or ARPA, depending on what the status of that is by then.
Okay. All right, and I'll talk to the Collins Center, I think, this week. So,
Mhm.
and we have a meeting, public safety has a meeting next week. So by our next meeting, I'll have a lot more information.
Okay,
I'll probably try to touch base with Leverett and New Salem. Maybe
Yeah.
Shutesbury.
as we start moving into the 23 budget, I'll take a look at where might be good places to, take pieces of that from as well.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Next on the agenda is returning to in-person meetings, which we just saw from, I guess it was Joe Comerford, that it does look like they're trying to move quickly to extend the ability to do remote meetings. The Senate has approved it, I guess, but not the House.
Until when?
Hmm?
Until, until when they've approved it?
I have to look. Hold on.
But of course, that doesn't prevent us from going to in person.
That's right. It does not. And honestly, I think I'm fine with that idea to go to in person, although I won't be here for the next meeting. So there's that.
Yeah, me too. I'm fine with it, but I also think that if there's one member of the board or Glenn who's not comfortable, then I'm okay sticking with remote for a while, I guess.
And I think, I'm comfortable. I think everybody would be fine. It's another question of masks or no masks. I think Glenn would wear a mask. I'm not sure at this point if he worries about other people wearing a mask. Let's see. I think till December, that was when the extension was going to be too.
Okay, thank you.
So, so for July, so we don't know for sure if the House will vote, but it sort of seems like they might. Anyway, do we want to make a decision right now whether or not we want to do it remote or not on the 20th? And sorry, the other question I had for Doug was, is there any chance we'll have our sort of hybrid setup?
Oh, I don't know. We probably won't have the owl by then, although the stuff is coming in a couple of weeks, so it could be. It'd be good if we could do the 20th by remote because the two or three people from Entree said that they could do it.
Okay,
Okay,
And we said tentatively at 7:30.
Good.
For maybe half an hour. I don't know, whatever people want to do. Is that a chance I may or may not be able to be there? It's going away for a couple of days with my wife, but um, if I can't, I think just as long as people have some questions prepared and Gillian's been on board with it all, that you'll be fine to, talk to them. I've talked to them a bunch of times, so no. There'll be likely a service manager and Pat, the sales, person, maybe one other person, maybe a technician who would be working with us. And the reviews from the two towns that have been done so far have been really, really good.
I'm sorry, Doug, the two towns that
Oh, yeah,
what?
yes, we've interviewed two of the towns that were recommended as references.
Yeah,
And let's see, Megan did one and I did one, and Gillian's been waiting for the third one to get back to her. And they were stellar.
okay, great.
And
okay, so,
I have
um,
other updates about that, but I don't know where you want to put that.
yeah, that's next, but let's just say, should we say that July 20th will be remote unless the state makes it so we cannot?
Yep,
Put it
I'll
that way.
agree with that.
Okay, so that's good, and we'll probably discuss it again then. See what happens for the next meeting. Okay, so now we can talk more about that part, Doug.
Oh, yeah, right now it's, the status is that Craig and Craig Slozak, Slozak, who's a service manager, and Pat Beerley and very like possibly another technician, may be on that call next week. And they're hoping to start putting in hardware next week or the week after, and I'm waiting to hear from Craig, the service manager, for more details and to plan what works for the town and for him. And I've got some messages out, questions they had about whether there was software that was on their computers in addition to Office software that needed to be transferred, reinstalled. That could possibly be true for Carolyn and for Penny. So I've asked them about that. The others I don't think will, but I asked them anyway. The library seems to be all set. We should be getting, I got to get a list of the ones that are available so far. There's a few that are not yet because they're supply issues. But the majority of them are, and I'll get a comprehensive list and pass that on to people and which ones will be going in these next 2 weeks.
Excellent. And do you think you and Gilly, between you, Gilly, and Glenn, you'd come up with questions? And if you're not there, I'm happy to ask them.
Yeah, I
You
think that's
guys
fair.
can-
And anything anybody else has, some of them might be some of the sorts of questions we asked of the other town references, framed slightly differently.
Okay, right.
How do you deal with technical problems of certain nature? How often do you expect to be here? There are some, and when it comes to the contract, I think there's some details to be worked out between the select board and Entree that are maybe more granular, like for example, one piece of it is a plan that we would be giving them a deposit that they would use to draw down on when people had to do site work, kind of like we do with the police, except that instead of us holding it, they would hold it. And the contract would specify what happens if we if we discontinued our contract, and then they would return it. Little things like that, and how many years we want to do it, or what kind of a rollout we want to do in that. I was just thinking that maybe want to get going, get started, do it a month-to-month basis for a few months, and everything going well, and then try to contract for a year, while we still have ARPA money, or maybe 2 years. I don't know. It seems how people feel. So there's things to discuss and of that nature. which would probably, that would probably require a different meeting, a separate meeting.
So this is more of a interviewing before we finalize
Right,
the
right.
hiring or the
This would be
contract.
a pre-contractual,
Yeah.
just get everybody feeling comfortable about it, understanding what they do, hearing firsthand more of how they intend to operate, how they maintain the network, what their understanding is of what we want, and everybody asking questions about that sort of thing. It's the things that I've been talking about with them and somewhat with Gillian, and that, starting to involve everyone else in that. And there may be other people we want to invite to that meeting to be part of that. That's another piece.
Robert? Is Robert still going to be interacting at the library stuff?
Well, I had some long interactions with Robert, mostly by email and text, email, I think. And it surprised him that he didn't know it was happening. I thought he did. I thought that that Anna had talked to him because she told me she did. But maybe it was not, just in a way, the communication missed a little bit. We talked about it pretty much in detail via email, and I think he understands our concept now. And he's talked to Miriam, and Miriam says he's on board and understands what we're trying to do, and will do his best to get us the files we need, or anything that's in sort of in this Linux file formats that can't be moved easily. But Miriam thinks that Miriam's looked at the files and believes that 90% of anything that needs to be continued and moved on are in Excel or Word formats. So I don't really anticipate a problem. The issue of security for the public computers was brought up, and I think that's a thing to ask them about when they're, when we have them here next week. My understanding is that they can be set up so that nothing ever gets saved on those hard drives at all. Nothing is downloaded. That is, it's other than things that are securely been, they aren't downloaded to the computer. Like you could download something to your USB plug, right? That's in it, but nothing to the computer itself. So users would have to, I assume, have some kind of a portable device that they could attach to it in order to process files or to get files. And there's a way that Windows operates now called Kiosk that does that. And there may be additional security that could be done beyond that. And we believe that those computers will be included in the security umbrella that they're going to build and the firewall that they're installing. Although actually that may not be true because the firewall will be at the town office. So I'm not sure about firewall at the library. That's a question to ask, and that's something I never thought about. I'm not sure if they did or not.
Okay, that sounds good. So 7:30.
Yeah.
And if you wanna, or we can all work with Glenn to make sure we're inviting all the right people who might
Yeah.
want to be there.
Yeah, I think Robbie would be good to invite to that. I think that's a good idea.
Maybe
Yeah.
Miriam, or maybe,
Yeah, Miriam, or one of the library folks who've been close to it, or both. I mean, I think more people probably better than fewer. They should be available to answer any questions and concerns people have. And if concerns are brought up during the course of that meeting that require more thought, well, that's fine. We'll know what those are.
great.
Good.
All right, well, keep us posted when
Okay.
you get confirmation that they're coming. Josh,
Is that next week or next meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, next meeting.
next
Okay.
meeting.
Right,
the
right.
20th.
That's what we're thinking, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, anything else on that? Technology stuff? Okay, the next thing we have is Old Home Day, which I did talk to Gilly briefly today. She said Kathy Becker might join us to talk about this, but I think it's definitely being scheduled and planned for August 13th.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So I don't know, other than without having somebody here to make a formal request of us, I don't know if there's anything we should do tonight other than be aware of it. Can anybody else think of it?
No, I mean, we could vote to approve the date that when there's a rep here or when we're sure that everything's finalized. But I
Okay,
don't think we need to do anything now.
all right,
Except give them a word of encouragement.
yes. And if Kathy somehow shows up late, we can come back to this. Okay. Select Board Rules of Procedure. I'm afraid I didn't look at it again more carefully or have any other thoughts. I don't know if you did, Dan.
Well, no, my only other thought was to get some thoughts from you guys. So I think we can kick this down the road. But excuse me, just so that everybody is aware, including Doug. I know Carolyn's aware because she has already offered some beneficial suggestions. But we now have a 4 or 5 page draft of Select Board Rules of Procedure, which we've never had. And I think the Select Board all agrees it's a good idea to nail it down. And it's section 1 is officers, section 2 is meetings, section 3 is agenda, section 4 is procedures during meeting, section 5 is meeting minutes. And just that section alone takes almost a full page of the rules of minutes. So these are things that we've never had, and they've been gleaned from other towns. And we've already had one run through with the Select Board, and we'll be doing more. So if any members of the public want to chime in on any of these rules or any boards or committees, now's the time to do it.
And we did sort of go over everything that you had written last time, right? So I don't know if is there anything new that,
No,
okay,
no, pretty much the same thing.
all right. Well, we'll put it on the agenda again and
Yeah,
we can encourage people to take another look.
we did approve certain things, like we approved having a second in command for the Select Board.
Right,
And
right.
we approved putting public comment at the beginning of our agenda, which is something completely new, but what other towns, a lot of other towns do. And nobody showed up tonight for public comment, but I hope people do in the future, because that's what, from reading all these other rules, that's one thing the Select Board's here for, is to listen to what's happening in town. So we're providing a section right at the beginning of the agenda for people to do that.
Yeah, that's great. Carolyn, you have your hand up.
I do. Dan, how did you resolve the terminology for the select person who is labeled as clerk and the note taker who is the Select Board clerk?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question. And I've been thinking about it a lot. And so the Select Board clerk is a member of the Select Board who's responsible for documents, all the Select Board documents, including minutes and executive session minutes and et cetera. And I think that person should be called the Select Board clerk, because this goes way back in mass history for Select Boards. And then the person who takes the minutes, we can talk about this, but several things have been suggested. The recording clerk, the Select Board recording clerk, the Select Board recorder. But this is the person who takes the minutes. It's a job, a paid job, its own paid job by the town. I also thought of scribe, if anybody's interested in that one. But I think Select Board clerk is a good one. And I think Gillian is a perfect candidate, because she is the one who, in the meetings, if we reference a previous document or a previous minutes, she's got it right there in front of her instantly. So I think she's an ideal candidate for this because she can just call up these documents immediately, and it's very helpful.
Yeah, I just, we had talked about this last time and Gailey's gonna put this in the newsletter. We put select board recording secretary.
That's
As,
good.
in the advertisement that will go in the newsletter.
That's great. Yeah. Good.
Doug,
Just to put this in the mix, it's one little piece of information that the general concept behind putting a new desktop computer in the select board office is that it would be essentially a mirror of Glenn's computer, but also I have a lot of files too. But that it will be what do you call it? A storage container for lots of records from the past that will be accessible to the select board and other people who are designated as, probably myself and some others who are designated to be able to access all that stuff anytime.
Good.
And it will be then possible to go and access the records there and to print them or email them or whatever you need to do them or get them into the file server, the shared file server. I don't imagine we need to put everything there all at once, but things that are, necessary to be there. There'll be decisions to make about actually what to put in the file server, what level of like everything that we've ever had or what. I'm really not sure. I think we might consult with Collins people and stuff like that to see what's practical, get some ideas. But that should help some of that.
and
Does
the
that sound
server,
good to you, Carolyn?
you still there, Carolyn?
I
you.
am. I am just very technology challenged. No, that sounds fine. I just wanted to make sure that the question was brought up and that there were two clearly defined terms for those two positions because people aren't always going to have the document to reference who is the select board clerk and what they do and who is the note taker and what do they do. So I just was hoping that the name of the position would be an indicator as to the job description.
And does Joy's position, I always thought that was also called the select board clerk.
It is, I know, it is, there's been the select board clerk hourly, which is what Joy's position was. And then there was the select board clerk's salary, which is what your son did. And
Right.
who was the note taker. And then just in this spring, the select board clerk salaried position, which was the note taker, was changed to an hourly position. And I think just sort of lumped in, but the person who, well, you haven't had a replacement model yet, but whoever the replacement model is, would be this new position that you're talking about in your document, so.
And in terms of changing that name of the position, do we have to formally vote on something like that, or is that?
No,
just-
I don't think so. Doug, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's, my understanding has always been that whatever we vote at town meeting, as far as that budget line item, it's the intent where we've run into problems before and why the select board had to make the vote in the spring to change that salary, geez, salary to hourly, was because the original intent was that it was a salaried position. So you were making a change in how the position was being paid. So therefore it took a vote. But if you're just changing the name of the position and not who the board that they're working for or how they're being paid, then I think you can call it whatever works, right, Doug?
Yeah, I totally agree. I would put it that Joy's position's a little, it's sort of misnamed in some ways because she's an assistant to the coordinator as well.
That's what she should be called.
And
there
I
you
think
go.
that might be more appropriate. She's, the coordinator works for the select board, but said,
Yes, right,
but
right.
yeah.
So you guys you can call your people, whatever you want. I'm happy to change it in my system. I just have to be notified.
Okay, maybe,
Okay. Can we just summarize what it is that we have?
Sure.
Select board clerk is a member of the select board who is in charge of all the select board documents. And you said select board recording clerk, Lori?
select board recording secretary.
Recording secretary. Okay, that sounds fine to me for the number 2 position. Select board recording secretary. And then Joy would be assistant to the town coordinator.
Sounds good to me.
And maybe call it administrative assistant.
Okay. That all sound good to you, Carolyn?
Yes, I'm writing feverishly.
Me too. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. It's all straightened out.
Okay. Okay.
I'd all be in one line right now. That's another.
Well, now that's another, I mean, the select board clerk, who is a member of the select board responsible for responsible for archiving select board materials.
Yes, exactly.
Now they don't get, there's not an additional salary
No.
that goes with that, right?
No, there's no additional salary, and there's no additional salary for the chair or the assistant vice chair, whatever it's called. We're all equal.
And the select board recording secretary is responsible, is the note taker.
Right.
And then the administrative assistant is assistant to the select board and town coordinator.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, if I don't lose a sticky note, we're all good.
We'll put it in the
Well.
minutes.
All right. And then Joy, when you voted for the hourly rates, the rate for this administrative assistant position is the clerk rate, which is $16.25. And then her highway clerk rate is $17.25,
Okay,
just as a reminder.
that's fine.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
okay.
All right. Anything more on that? All right, that's the end of our official agenda items. Are there any other unanticipated topics anyone wants to discuss?
Not for me.
Oh, Carolyn, raise your hand.
Yes, I have 2 things. One, the town flag outside this building, it really needs to come down. It's
Okay.
shredded. And I was gonna take it down tonight, but I can't because I'm not a monkey and I can't climb up the pole. So if somehow that could be done soon and hopefully a replacement model put up, but it pains me.
Okay, I'll take care of it, Carolyn.
Okay, thank you. My other question is, there was some confusion around this whole last warrant for the fiscal year. And because of that, the library payroll was turned in too late for me to be able to get it processed into Aaron. And there was, funding money monkeying around that had to be done. But if the Aaron's confident that the funds are there to cover the payroll, will the select board give me permission to pay them before the next warrant? It's like, I don't have it in front of me. It's like $1,200, I think.
Fine
Well,
with me.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm-
I mean, otherwise the funds would be encumbered and they'd be paid in 2 weeks. It's not that they're not going to be paid. It's just a matter of timing and, I always hate to make people who are waiting for a paycheck wait any longer than they have to. Okay,
Yeah, I agree. Would you like us to vote on it?
yes.
I
please.
move that we approve Carolyn's suggestion.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll get a hold of Erin and because Erin has to say, okay, and if she says, okay, then I'll just issue those checks.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Carolyn, can I ask a quick
Yes.
question? I put the kitchen coordinators payroll in,
You did.
and I don't know if it's a revolving account, does
It
it
is.
even matter about the fiscal year?
No, not to the same extent that the library payroll was. I did get that, but I was too late for me to get it on this warrant as well.
Right,
Because that is a revolving fund, it'll just go on the next warrant. I mean, if you want, I can pay that out ahead too.
I don't know, there's no rush. I
It
mean,
just,
I don't
okay.
think it needs it. I just didn't want it to get,
No, I
you know,
do
the
have it.
whole going to town meeting thing. Definitely want to avoid that.
No. No, we're good there.
Okay. Go ahead, Doug.
A couple of small things and a question for Carolyn. Well, actually, all of them are questions for Carolyn. So I see here where for some reason we still put a small amount in a select board clerk salary line. I'm not sure why. But there's a select board clerk hourly line and a shared clerk line. Yeah.
Are you talking for FY23?
Yeah, FY23, yeah.
Okay, well, the fact that there's 2 select board salary and hourly lines is probably just because this whole moving everything to hourly, it was not fully formulated when the budget was being developed.
Mhm.
So I just think it's a carryover because that's how it's been done for so many years.
How much
Right.
is in there, Doug?
Well, there's all $1,718 in the salary clerk and
Right.
$3,500 in the hourly clerk.
Because I think it might be worth having it, the option to move back to a salaried. So it might be good that it's there. I think it might be more attractive to somebody.
It guess, that could be. So it's not an urgent thing either way. I mean, it's just so you know, there are
Well-
still 2 lines.
The intention, even though that says it's salaried, I would have, just thinking out loud, when I pay that, when those timesheets come in, they would be posted to that salaried line, even though it's being paid hourly.
Sure.
Just because that's the position
Okay.
itself changed. It just, the terminology did not get changed in the actual budget line.
I think that's probably Joy.
No,
No?
the
No.
salaried one is the minute taker.
Oh, that was the minute taker. Okay.
That's the
okay.
minute
hourly
taker.
one.
The
was-
hourly, the other one, the 35, whatever, that's Joy.
Yeah, okay. All right. All right, so to be dealt with later. The question I have for you, the other question I have is looking through well, I got you, the July 6 warrant report. There were only 2 places. I did send a note back to you and Aaron. Sometimes she doesn't catch up with these, so I'm not sure what the status of them are. There was still a transfer that needed to be made from the crawl space money to the crawl space money from the window money at the town hall because they balance each other out. And my last discussion was she thought that would be eligible to do that, but it hasn't happened in her warrant report. So I don't know if there's a problem we need to deal with about it. And the other was that, as we expected, the town properties line is over, but not by as much as I thought. So there does seem to still be enough in the FinCom reserve to cover that. I haven't done this enough to know what's the what's the order of when transfers have to be done? Are we still able to do that?
Well, I think that the reserve fund transfers can happen, or the transfers can happen up till July 15th.
Hmm.
And I do think there's a lot of those postings Aaron just hasn't had time to do yet because
Yeah.
of, like, this was a double warrant week. The
Sure.
last time was double warrants. And so because I noticed when I was looking at the June, I only saw the June 30th one.
Mhm.
There are a couple of things there that I know the encumbered, not encumbered, the other transfers have not been made
Okay,
to, even though it doesn't show a negative. And she processed the payroll, but I know, for instance, it was Joy's, one of her accounts. Her payroll actually was over. The transfer documents are in the box, but I think they
Oh.
just haven't, anyway. I think Aaron
Okay.
just has some catching up to do on closing out the end of the year.
yeah, it's figures. So are there FinCom transfers that need to be signed?
I can go look. I don't know.
Oh, are you in the office?
I am.
Oh,
I'll go
yeah,
look in the
if you could,
box.
that would be great. Let us know and I can send
Okay.
Megan a note.
I'll be back.
Okay, thanks.
Any other things people want to discuss? Oh, I don't know, Dan, if this is a good time to talk about the solar that we keep meaning to talk about. Or if you'd rather put that off. You're muted.
I know that, yeah. No, I'm happy to do it now. Can you just update me on the plans for the highway garage?
Just that, I mean, right now, Phil's going through the process of getting the roof fixed. And when that's done, we're hoping to apply for a grant, which won't be until beginning of next year, to do solar and battery storage on the roof at the highway garage.
Okay, and when you say he's getting the roof ready, I think that means structural
Yeah,
But not-
structural
not-
and replacement.
replacement of the roof.
Yep.
Okay, and that's replacement of the roof with standing seam metal?
Well, that was part of the discussion, but the quotes he got, it was much more expensive for the standing seam. It is metal. Actually,
Yeah.
I'd have to double check. Because
Yeah,
he's sort
for
of
sure.
doing this. This is one of those things where I don't know who he's working with on this. I've had very little back and forth. So I could see if I can find an email, but I know I did just ask him about the standing seam and he said it was a lot more expensive. So at this point, he's opting to do a cheaper material.
It's Farberall, the same thing that's on it now, but would hopefully be installed properly.
The same thing?
Really, it is, yeah. Farberall,
Because
that's what's
this-
on it now.
Well,
Yeah.
if it's exactly the same, then that's not gonna work for solar. Because that was part of the problem.
It was, but I think there's, I don't know, I got the impression from Phil that there was a way to do it. That he was
Well,
on top of
I
that, but
think
I'm
one
not- we'll have to
problem
go
with,
back to him
with
again.
one problem with the current roofing material is that it's been re-nailed 3 times.
Yeah.
And I know that because I was the one who did it with Stephen Broll twice. So I'm familiar with the roof, having been up there. And I'm familiar with the material, having used it a lot in various applications. And I think it would really be wise to put standing seam up there if you're going to put solar on it, because it's not a steep roof. It's subject to leaks, and every penetration you have in the roofing is a candidate for a leak at some future point. And I think they've really gotten the technology down for installing the panels on standing seam and making it leak proof as much as possible. It may be a lot of money, but it might be worth it.
I know, on my own roof, I've got fiberall on one side and standing seam on the other, the standing seam being there on the south side for that purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a possibility, but it would take a rebidding process probably, but that
Yeah.
might not be too difficult. Yeah, I thought that he had answered this question, but I had the same thought about the standing seam being the only thing you could put solar on.
It's not the only thing. He said he's been in contact with one of the engineers from a solar company to make sure it's sufficient. Trying to see. Oh,
Yeah,
the,
well, I would just say, based on my own experience, that I would bet, my own money on putting the standing seam up, but you could
I
just
would
do it
too.
on the south side. Could just do it on the south side and do the other metal on the north side, which would save a lot of money.
so he said 35 to 40,000 is the increase in the cost to do standing seam, is what I'm finding from an old email.
Eh,
Go
Yeah.
for it.
It's ARPA money, man.
Yeah, I would say go for it.
All right, I'm gonna send him an email right now because he's already, it seems like he's moving right ahead.
Chomping at the bit.
Yeah, we have ARPA money and we have sufficient amount in the stabilization to cover overages while we're waiting for the additional ARPA money to come in. And this is something that we absolutely needed. And if it means it's less to roll over to next year, okay. But I agree with you, Dan, that I think it makes sense to put the better roofing on there for posterity. Yeah. Now, my understanding also is that part of the reason it leaked and always was it was nailed the wrong way. It was nailed the way that seemed to be logical, but not the way they actually say to do it.
Right.
And that's what, and plus the movement and yeah. So standing
Yeah,
seam would be better. And
I think it would be a good investment to go for the standing seam on one side.
at least maybe
At
the whole
least.
thing went leaks. I don't know.
So,
Did you have got an answer for me, Carolyn?
oh yeah, go back to Carolyn.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Oh, did you have an answer? Are there?
I chatted you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I don't know anything
Anyway,
about chat.
The answer
there a
is
chat
the
in there?
only one that it's in the select board box right now, and it's that transfer for Joy's payroll. It's like $120.
Oh,
And so the select board has to sign it, then it would go to the FinCom to sign. So
Okay.
if sometime between now and the 15th of July, that could get signed, that would be good. And then that would just go to Aaron.
okay.
And other than that, I think it's just other things you asked
So
about.
the select board will sign this when?
Right, it's an appropriation transfer request,
Yeah, but it's in the select board box now.
correct?
When will you
Yes.
sign it?
Pardon?
Select board.
Yeah.
So
We'll
we
sign
need to
it.
sign something?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're signing tomorrow morning.
Oh, you know what? I'll take it out of the box. I'll put it in with the warrants.
Okay.
I'll
That'd
put
be
it in the
awesome.
box of the warrants.
Oh, good. Okay. And then
Yeah.
those pieces go to the FinCom box. And if you do that, I think we'll be able to have a meeting on Monday. I'll ask Megan if we can have a meeting on Monday. She and Thomas are now the chairs.
Okay. Oh, can I just say
Happily.
one other unrelated thing because it just popped in my head? Doug, when you were asking about the software before.
Yeah.
Probably the software that is would be the odd one for me is QuickBooks.
Okay. Yeah.
And I downloaded that when I put it on my other computers. I
Okay.
have a license
Great.
and or subscription.
That's
whatever.
what they need to know.
Right, so I do have that. So whatever information you need on that. And then how are we dealing with Excel and Word off the whole Office thing?
That's easy because we have a copy of it that we simply put on the hard drive and downloads itself.
That's it.
But the, yes, if you could put that information about the downloading of the QuickBooks in an envelope in the FinCom box. I will
Okay.
get that. I can pass it on to them.
Okay. All right.
Any, so that means, I assume that would mean any codes that you have. You know, installation codes, you know, those kind of things.
Got it. Will do.
And because we're doing a notebook computer for you, it would be handy if you were around at least part of the time when they're there. But and if you send me an idea of what are good times that you'll be there during the day, or what would be good times to be there during the day, that would help a little. And some of it they could do remotely later too. So that's another.
Right. Whenever it gets closer to the time, we'll work out something.
Okay, good.
All right, so I emailed Phil. I don't know if this is a time, or maybe we'll put this on a future agenda, or when we have Phil on, just in terms of if there's people he needs to be consulting before these decisions are made. I mean, I've been going back and forth with email a little bit, and I've tried to pull Jim in, but it didn't always, you know, the discussions weren't as fleshed out as they probably should have been. So anyway, something to discuss. Was there any other solar related stuff, Dan?
No, that was it. Well,
Okay.
you know, the only other question is ground mounting. You know, you see all these beautiful ground mounted systems like at the jail, the Franklin County Jail, and other places where they're just mounted over parking spots. And
Yeah,
that
parking.
seems a great idea. I haven't looked at it for that site, but then there's the town office building might have a potential for ground mounted over the parking. I don't know. I
Yep.
haven't thought about any
The
detail.
shade would be nice in the summer, to tell you the truth.
It helps the cars and the
Yeah,
asphalt.
the asphalt gets really hot there.
Over parking, I think is a brilliant idea.
It's much more expensive. That's the big downside for doing canopies.
Mhm.
And therefore
Okay.
it's better for a bigger, you know, the bigger it is, the more
Yeah,
More
whatever
cost efficient it
scale
is. Yeah.
right.
makes it more feasible.
More economy of scale, a better
Right,
economy of scale if
exactly.
it's if it's a larger canopy than a smaller one.
Yes.
Mhm.
But if you calculated the standing seam metal into the equation,
Yeah,
the ground mounted might be more competitive.
that's right.
I have very high doubts about a canopy at the fire because of all the big trucks that go in and out of there.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I think that it would be a little tough to sell. And the
Yeah.
problem with ground mounted, we were gonna do ground mounted at the highway, but depending on, you know, if the size that we wanted to have it would require it being fenced, and it required a bunch of other planning board hoops to jump through because of water runoff and all that, or whatever, storm water drainage. I don't remember.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there who would definitely prefer rooftop to ground mounted for those reasons.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think the next thing we might be looking at is the Swift River School as a nice big roof that maybe we can, or parking lot there too.
Well, they've got a good parking lot there.
Yeah. And the other thought I have about a parking canopy at the town offices is that it's a little bit with all the gardens there, it just seems like it wouldn't be appreciated in terms of the beautiful setting, and that would maybe take
Hmm.
away from that.
I wonder
Well,
what the
there's
electric
also
bill
the
is at
town office
Swift River
building.
School. Oh, I'm sorry. wondering, Swift River School, the electric bill might be significant enough that that could make a dent. But they use a lot
Yeah,
of
sure it
electricity.
would be. And, whatever, if there's extra, you know, assuming we succeed with what we want to do on the highway barn, any extra we can put towards the school. If there's, extra electricity that we produce that's not used at the highway barn,
Hmm.
we can credit the school. But, yeah, schools are definitely one of the best places to put them. Other than the fact that sometimes their roofs are also problematic. We did all the schools in Greenfield, and I think only 2 of them could be used because they had
Oh.
various structural issues.
Uh-huh.
There's also the leach field at the town office building.
Right.
That's a big area that could use a structure on top of it. It would be pretty simple to put up. And it's a big area, south facing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't remember if we've looked at that and it's too many trees, or it might not be able to be as big in that space just because of the trees all around it. But yeah, that's definitely worth looking at. We're gonna get, we've been part of this grant project that's doing a whole full assessment of the town and best ways to pursue solar. So we're going to get that report hopefully soon.
Mhm.
And it'll give us good ideas, and we can share it with everybody and figure out the best way to go forward.
Good, thanks for doing it, Lori.
No problem. Okay. Anything else?
Not for me.
Shall we, I will move to adjourn then at 8:02.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Bye. Good
Right.
night, everybody.
Good
Well
night,
done.
everyone. See
Thanks,
you
everyone.
soon.